You're here with Jennifer, with Jan, and myself, Lee. We are the Cloudways Mavericks, and we are honored to have the one, the only Jennifer Bourn from jenniferbourn.com and the Content Camp. Before we carry on, folks, if you would like to be a part of this live stream, can I encourage you to start giving us some emojis? I've just pulled this out. Give us some emojis. Let us know in the comments if you are watching the replay, if you're watching this later on. And also, if you have any questions at any time, then please do let us know, because the team at Cloudways and ourselves will be keeping our eye on things. We are here with Jennifer. She's going to share with us shortly some awesome slides, and she's going to help save your sanity. Let's read this. Stay on track, stay on budget, and on time. Everyone wants to do that with projects. We've been working our way through projects now for the last few weeks, and this is kind of the grand finale. So no pressure whatsoever, Jennifer.
Oh my goodness. Now I'm feeling it.
Exactly. So feel free, folks, comments, and we will all be involved during Jennifer's presentation as well. We might be rude now and again and jump in and have a bit of a chin wag. And at the end, we're also going to have a conversation. So thank you, everyone. So before we do that, Jennifer, let's go around the table. We'll start with yourself. Let us know just a little bit about yourself in, say, 30 seconds, and then we'll go to Jan, then myself, and then we'll hand over for your presentation.
Sounds good. Well, I'm Jennifer Bourn. I have been an agency owner for about 16 years. I've been a designer for 22. This is, other than nannying, the only job that I have ever had. So, cool. Yeah, I have been on my own since 2005, grew a team to 5, went back to 1 so I can travel and do all of those kinds of things. At one point, hired my husband to run my business for me. He's now working over at 10up. But I took all of those 22 years of experience and rolled it into a business mentorship and training program I run called Profitable Project Plan. We've been running that since 2017. And then in 2019, started Content Camp.
Oh, which I also have queued up. Look, there you go. That's how organized we are, folks. You can check out Jennifer Bourne's website over on jenniferbourn.com or also /Content Camp to find out some more information. Jan, give us a little quick 30-second intro.
I'm Jan Koch. I'm the new owner of Virtual Summit Mastery. I'm diving full in virtual summits these days. And obviously, I still love WordPress, but virtual summits is just my game these days.
And my name is Lee. I am the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast. So, Jennifer, it is time for you to shine in the grand finale of the project.
I feel so much pressure.
All right, we're going to go on mute. Over to you. You're awesome.
Sounds great. We are here talking about how to save your sanity, stay on track, on budget, and on time. And we can't do that without talking about out-of-control projects. So first, these projects introduce unexpected challenges and create stress that none of us need. They create a negative experience for everyone involved, for us doing the work and for our clients who are having to navigate these items. It draws our attention, our focus, and our time away from the most important work that we're doing. The work that earns us those raving fans, that sends us more referrals and hires us for more business, and the work that moves us closer to our goals and moves our business forward. Out of control projects also erode profitability. And let's face it, we're not in business to be broke. Like, we didn't start our business to make no money, right? We need to make a living, make a profit, be able to reinvest back into our business. So when our projects get out of control, the ripple effects are felt throughout the entire business. I know this because my projects were totally out of control. When I started my business, I had a baby and a 2-year-old, and I hit 6 figures in my first year. And it wasn't because of some miraculous thing. It was because I was undercharging and over-delivering. And who doesn't want to hire you when you're doing that? I was only billing for actual time spent doing the work. I had no PM system and no client management system. I had no idea what I was doing. It was totally flying by the seat of my pants. I did anything and everything clients asked for, and I let them walk all over me. And I often worked for free and didn't charge for my time. So I often joke in the programs that I'm running that I basically learned by trial and error, trial by fire, and pretty much now feel confident being able to advise other people because I've done everything wrong. And then learned how to fix it all so that my business runs great these days, right? You would never know that if you just met me in the last, 5, 6, 7, 10 years. So
people always think we have it nailed, don't they? Because we show up.
Gracious. I'm like, if you knew me in 2005, goodness gracious. Right? Like, oh my gosh. So I had to save my own sanity, right? So everything that I teach in Profitable Project Plan, everything I teach in Content Camp, like everything stems from all the hard lessons that I had to learn to regain control of my own business and regain control of my own life and step up and be the leader that my business needed to be and my clients needed to be. So today we're talking about how to protect your projects, to remove potential threats, to derail them, right? We want to reduce stress, create positive client experiences. We want to deepen client relationships and protect our profitability. And we want to do this even when things don't go according to plan, right? Because sometimes we can't control what happens. Now let's talk about why projects go off the rails, because we have to understand why this happens before we can understand how to fix it and how to recognize that this is happening in our projects. So we have to ask ourselves, how come some of our projects run smoothly and go amazingly, and some of them run into problems when we're doing the exact same thing for both clients? It's easy to blame the clients. I feel like we can't not talk about passing blame, right? We say, they don't get it. They don't understand. My clients are stupid. They keep asking and asking. They don't know what they're doing. They're ruining everything. They're taking advantage of me. And that's an easy spot to be in because it takes all the blame off of you. But that's not exactly reality, right? The truth, let's close that. The truth is that clients sometimes cause problems. Yes, they do. But when you have documented systems that control your project management and your client management, clients become the only wild card, right? And clients only become problems if we let them become problems. Saying, well, my client is just stupid, they don't understand, that means you didn't educate them, right? Saying my clients are taking advantage of me means you're not holding your boundaries, right? Clients can only become problem clients if we let them become problem clients. So part of saving our sanity is good project management and good client management, so it never gets to the point where we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. Now, I can say confidently, most of these problems stem from inexperience or not feeling confident stepping up as a leader in your business. When you don't have a lot of confidence, you're new, you don't have a lot of experience, you're kind of hesitant, you maybe have anxiety in your business, you avoid tough conversations. You don't enforce your boundaries or the terms in your contracts. You have a fear around saying, yeah, I can do that, but it's going to cost you more money, right? You don't want to have those money conversations. And you don't own that true leadership role of guiding clients through the project and managing it efficiently. So we have to learn from experience how to recognize early warning signs. So I'm going to share with you the ones that I've learned to recognize in my projects, right? And then how we keep them on track and avoid them from happening in the first place. So when we're looking at recognizing and figuring out what are the signals, what are the little triggers that are like, this could be a problem, right? We want to stop derailment before it happens. We want to catch it early, because if we catch it early, we can nip it in the bud before it becomes a big problem. And mind you, I have to say this, it's not just client caused problems. This could be problems you cause, and it could be problems caused by internal team members, right? So while we're talking about clients, I also want you to think about this in terms of your agency, your team, and the way that you're working. And know that everything that we're going to talk about today is designed to help you reinforce your experience and your expertise and your professionalism while protecting the client's objectives, why they hired you in the first place, and your bottom line. So what should you be looking for, right? We're going to look at 9 key circumstances that knock projects completely off the rails and how to course correct and how to prevent them from happening. The first one is shifts in communication. Right? If you feel in your business, if you feel in the project that all of a sudden there's decreasing communication from the client, right? They used to email you every day and now they email you once a week. They used to email you every once in a while, but it's been like a month and they haven't responded to anything. If you notice a change in frequency or all of a sudden they're communicating with you less, that's a red flag, right? That's something to pay attention to and say, uh-oh, we need to do something about this. Now, sometimes this is just because the clients get busy. So I don't take drastic action here. I mention it the next time I'm interacting with the client. I let them know, hey, I've noticed I'm hearing from you a little bit less, or it's taking a little bit longer to get feedback, right? It's taking a little bit longer to get things that I need or to get questions answered. Like, it seems like things are pretty busy over on your end, right? I notice things are dragging out a little bit. I always blame it on being too busy, right? Lots of stuff going on, distractions, whatever. But I highlight it and call attention to it because sometimes clients don't even realize they're doing it. We can't automatically assume the worst, right? Sometimes they're just like, oh crap, you're right. Like, I didn't even realize I was doing that, right? Or yeah, I am really busy. And you get a little bit of insights as to what's going on behind the scenes so you can better support your clients. Again, with this approach, you're not calling them out. You're not making them look bad. You're not blaming them. You're not saying, hey, you're delaying things. You're opening up the door that if they do have a concern, if there is something going on more than just, I'm really busy and it's taking me longer, it lets them step in and say, actually, I'm glad that you mentioned this. And then you can figure out what's going on. The next thing to watch out for is engagement or participation shifts, right? If you feel like the client is pulling away or they're holding back, maybe they used to be fairly outspoken and now they're not saying things, or they used to have opinions and now they're like, sure, whatever, that's fine. Okay. That is a blatant signal that something's going on, right? They're distracted, they're no longer interested, or they're just over it and they want to finish this up and they want to move on. So preventing this sometimes is just a matter of a check-in call, a just because check-in. So many times we focus all of our project management and communication with the client around tasks. I need to get this done. I need this approval. I need this thing from you. Look at this thing. Do this thing. It can be a little bit of a breath of fresh air to just reach out the client with no agenda and say, hey, how are things going? Right? How are we doing? How's the project going? And get a pulse on their perception of how everything is rolling out in the project. Right? Not all communication has to be tied to tasks. It's really nice to be able to sometimes connect with the client and just say, hey, how's it going? All right, how's it going? What's up? Is there anything we could be doing better? Right? And just get that little check-in. It shows the client that you really care about their experience. And again, opens up the door to let them share if there's a concern or there's a problem or a mistake was made and they are kind of holding back because they don't want to like cause, they don't want to cause some ripples, right? Or ruffle some feathers. The next thing you want to look out for is missed checkpoints or missed deliverables. This could be from your internal team who maybe should have had a project done and they haven't finished it yet, or from a client who owes you something and you can't move forward without it. So if it feels like something's getting in the way, someone isn't honoring their contract or their agreement, you have got to deal with it right away, right? You have to follow up and share the implications of how this is going to impact the rest of the project, right? We find out, hey, we had this deliverable due, we had this milestone, we had this deadline that we had to meet and it was missed. What's going on? Do you need help? Is there a blocker that's preventing you from doing this that we don't know about? Can we step in and make this easier for you? Can we help you? Can we support you? Or if there's none of that and they're like, no, I just didn't do it, then we've got to remind them of the implications. Like, hey, if we don't get this by a certain time, it might delay launch. It might stretch out the timeline. It may increase budget, right? When you tell the client, hey, FYI, if you don't pull your weight and honor your contract agreements, it could delay your launch or you could pay more money. They're like, oh, no, we'll get this done. It's like there's nothing that's going to move them faster than threatening the fact that they have to pay more money. I was about to
say the same. How much more?
Yeah, they're like,
that'll get you a
I have
late
time to do
fee.
that today.
The other thing we've said as well, because we have a lot of contractors involved, sometimes if they don't get us something in time, that means that contractor is no longer available for 2 more months if they're a specialist in something. So we're like, you need to get this to us. Otherwise, this entire project delays 2 months. Even if it's not cash, it's 2 months delay. That ain't cool. So anyway, sorry, carry on. This is awesome. And folks, just let us know if any of these resonate with you as well. These are phenomenal. Carry on, Jennifer. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no faster way, man, when you're like, we're going to have to put your project on pause and come back to this later, or you're going to have to spend a bunch more money. And they're like, no, I can do this today. Right? Like, we can get this done right away. No. So the next thing that we want to look out for is micromanagement, right? And this is not something that a lot of people start thinking about. But if it feels like the client isn't letting you do the job they hired you to do, they keep stepping in, they're trying to tell you how to do your job, right? You should do this, you should do this, we should do this, just do whatever I say. Right? That is getting in the way of you being able to do your best work and the work that you were hired to do, the results you were hired to produce. So, how to prevent that? We listen, we acknowledge, and we respond. Right? Clients need to feel heard. So sometimes they are injecting all kinds of opinions and feedback just because they want to hear themselves talk, or they need to feel like they're a part of the process and they need to feel like they have input and that they're contributing, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of listening to what they have to say, acknowledging that they have an opinion, and then responding with your expertise about why or why not that may not be a good idea, right? Of saying, hey, I hear you. It sounds like you're trying to do this. Here's why I think maybe we should go in a different direction, or here's what could happen if we do this, right?
Can we make that logo bigger?
We're not even gonna go there. No, nobody cares about your logo but you. But the idea here is you want to demonstrate you're not just going to do anything that they say, but that you always have their best interests in mind, so that you listen, you acknowledge, and then you respond with your wisdom and years of expertise, with your knowledge, and help them make the best decision. And sometimes the best decision is not doing what the client originally said. They just need to have it talked through a little bit, right? So the idea here is that we remind the client why they hired us, right? We revisit those core project objectives that they outlined in that very first sales call and in your contract. We look at, hey, remember you said that these were your goals, right? Everything we're doing is helping you get there. And you look at how some of those goals might not be met if you're continually being told, do it a different way, right? Then we revisit our process. When clients jump in and start micromanaging things, it's usually a signal that they're uncomfortable, right? They don't know what's going on. They don't feel like things are happening. They're uncomfortable with where the project's at, and they feel like they need to get in there to make sure they get their money's worth, right? So when we go back and we revisit the process and we reassure them, hey, we have got your back. Like, we're working through this process. This is where we're at now. This is what comes next. This is where you're going to be able to provide feedback, and we'll make changes and we'll do these things, right? It gives them that sense of like, oh yeah, okay, right? Like I'm going to let you do the job I hired you to. And then we also revisit expectations, right? When revisions are allowed, when they're not, right? When changes can be made, when they're not, how things are going to work, right? And it's all about setting them at ease and making them feel really confident and comfortable in the work that you're doing, so they don't feel like they need to step in and start micromanaging. Now, the next thing you want to watch out for is opinion shopping. And this goes hand in hand with micromanaging. Opinion shopping, if you haven't heard this term, is when clients second guess everything you say and decide that they're going to go ask their dad or their mom or their neighbor or some stranger on the internet, hey, what do you think about this? And they get completely irrelevant input and advice from people who have nothing to do with the project and have no idea what they're talking about. And then they come back and tell you that you should do that because some other person said that they should. That's opinion shopping, and it's not fun for anybody. When a client starts opinion shopping, this is again a signal that they're losing trust, or they're second guessing. They have uncertainty. They're thinking, well, maybe you don't know as much as you said you do, or maybe this isn't the right decision, or maybe somebody else has a better decision. It means they're uncomfortable, right? They're not confident in what's happening. And so they feel like they need external validation. They feel like they need a second opinion. The problem is they don't ever get that second opinion from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. So we remind the clients, hey, we are executing on a specific strategy. You hired us to help you get a specific result. We've outlined a strategy to help you get there, and now we're executing on that. taking advice and input and opinions from people that have no context. They're not the target audience. They don't know the strategy. They don't understand what's going on. They're just telling you based on personal preference, right? Could potentially damage our ability to deliver the results that you want because we're going off strategy, right? So we explain the potential damage because sometimes clients don't even have a clue how that could impact their ability to get the results that they want. They just think, well, I'll get a second opinion. That's what I do when I have a weird doctor thing. I'm like, nope, I'm booking an appointment with another doctor. This guy might be a quack, right? That's just what they're trained to do.
Can I also throw in here? This might be really helpful. I so often forget what it's like to be the customer. Recently, we had an extension built upstairs in our attic. So like our entire house was pulled apart. And I actually found myself becoming the client that I so often would blame. So I was hovering around the builders. I was asking them questions. I was getting second opinions. I was being a pain in the ass, pardon my French. But yeah, I suddenly realized they weren't giving me the relevant communication like you're explaining here, Jennifer. Therefore, I felt unsafe. I started to lose trust. And I actually became the irritating client that I always had moaned about. So I just wanted to share that if it helps people to remember that we all have the ability, regardless, to become that same client if we're not handled like this. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Keep going. You're awesome.
I love that you said that because it is it's like a natural response, right? It's that like, I'm investing a lot of money. I want it to come out great. Like, do I need to double check things?
I felt sick.
Oh my gosh. We do it across the board in all kinds of things. So it isn't unique to design. It isn't unique to development. Like this happens across the board. So it's not unique to you, right? It's not your clients are, whatever. But the thing is, sometimes clients don't want to let this stuff go. They're like, nope, my dad said this should be blue. So we're making it blue, dang it. Like, I don't care what you say. So it's ridiculous. But sometimes I look at that and I don't want to completely shut my client down on every front and say, everything you just came to me with, we're saying no to. Or sometimes we want to placate the client a little bit and say like, oh yeah, we could definitely make that blue because it makes no impact whatsoever on the strategy, right? I always look for what are the little ways or the little opportunities where I could take some of that feedback and make the client feel like they didn't just do something stupid and waste their time. Like, how can I implement a few of those things in the places that aren't going to drastically affect the overall site strategy or that aren't going to detract from the goals we're trying to get? That way the client feels like they got a little win and you don't have to worry about potentially overcoming some problems that are being introduced. The next thing you want to look out for is decision-making struggles. This kind of goes hand in hand with micromanaging, with opinion shopping. When a client is struggling to make a decision, right? They're struggling to give approval, right? They're struggling to make any kind of decision in the project, right? They start avoiding it and it causes delays, right? This means they're unsure, right? We need to remove uncertainty to prevent this from happening. Because when clients are uncertain about something, they're not sure if it's the right decision, they're not sure if this is the best way to go, right? Then they get scared. What if I make the wrong decision? What if I regret this? What if this is totally off base? And then they have worry and they get nervous and then they get into analysis paralysis and they're like, I don't know what to do. And it negatively impacts the project because it stalls everything out. So to get clients to make a decision, we have to remove uncertainty completely and make them feel really confident that they're making the right decision, that they're in a good place, and that by saying yes, by making a decision, by moving forward, they are doing something good. So in order to help clients feel really confident in their decision making, first we find out why. Why are they delaying the decision? Why are they nervous about this? Why are they struggling to make that decision? What are they actually nervous or worried about? Right? It's okay to just ask, hey, it seems like making this decision or getting this approval is a little bit tough for you. Like, what's holding you back? What's standing in the way? Or kind of what are you nervous about? And that open-ended question gives the client an opportunity to speak up. And sometimes I even say, hey, I know that this is a big decision, right? Oftentimes when we're working with clients, they waffle a little bit because this is a big milestone. You've done a lot of work to get to this point, and now it feels like this is a really momentous decision. So if you want to talk about it a little bit, you want to talk through anything, if you want to explore some options, right? This is the time to do it. So we address their concerns and we talk through anything, right? And help them ease those nervousness, ease the worry, ease the fears, and then feel comfortable making that decision. We're providing reassurance. We're moving in the right direction. This is going to help you achieve your goals. We believe in what we're doing, right? And really reassure them. And then remind them that their decisions aren't etched in stone, right? This is the web. We can change anything at any time. So if they make a decision now and they end up changing their mind later, they can do that at any time. It might cost more money, but they can, right? And that's the beauty of building in a platform like WordPress, right? They can get in there and make little changes. They can work with us to make bigger changes, but nothing is set in stone. The next thing you want to look out for is late stage changes. If you feel like your projects are constantly moving one step forward and two steps back because the minute you get approval and start working on the next stage, the client's like, ha ha ha, just kidding. I'd like to make more changes to the thing I already approved. It's frustrating for everyone, right? It's frustrating for the client and it's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for the client because oftentimes they're busy, they're overworked, and they're forgetful, which means they forgot what actually goes into making changes after they give approval. So how to prevent this? We revisit the contract. When your contract is used as a positive reference tool throughout the whole project, right? When you continually refer back to it in a positive way, like, hey, we have this much content, formatting, this much content styling, this many pages of content included in your contract. So here's what we're going to do. We have this. Here's what we're going to do. When you constantly refer to your contract in a positive way to reinforce good things, when things do go bad or you are in a sticky situation and you have to reference that contract, it doesn't put the client on the defensive immediately, right? It doesn't get them all like, hey, what are you going straight to the contract? We're not friends? Come on now. Right? Like, no, we've all been there. We've all been there when we've had to reference the contract and the client gets all like whiny and defensive.
Probably don't say as per the contract because that's going to annoy them.
Oh my
as
God.
Per our previous
Worst
email.
language ever. Per our contract. I'd like to point out.
How to alienate your
You
client.
better be quiet. Oh my gosh. But it is, right? When we take our contract and we use it in a positive way over time, and then we have to do it when there's an issue, right? The client's used to it already. So they're like, oh, okay, let's look at that, right? Okay, let's revisit that. I might have forgot something, right? Clients are busy. They're distracted. They're forgetful. And sometimes we just have to remind them how things work, right? We revisit those contract terms, the expectations, the boundaries, and we remind them how requests like this are handled, right? We just remind them. And usually then clients are like, oh yeah, I remember we talked about that. Okay, here's what we want to do, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. But first, the next thing to watch out for, surprise stakeholders. It can feel like a punch in the gut when you have been working your tail off with your contacts. You have done a whole lot of work. You've gotten approvals. You made progress. You're in the middle or near the end of a project, and suddenly somebody shows up out of the blue and is like, no, change everything. And you're like, excuse me, what? No, like, you don't even know what to say. Where did you come from? Right? We mitigate this. We prevent this by getting stakeholder clarity really, really early. And this was a hard lesson that I had to learn, right? You have to find out as early as possible who has input on the project, who gets to put their input in, and who makes the final decision. Yeah. Because sometimes it's not the same people. Right?
And you also need to understand their motivation of why they want to complete the project, because they might have some internal goals that they maybe have to follow up with their manager on, and they get pressure from their manager to get the project done a certain way that you might not even know about. And then it conflicts with your expertise, but you are not talking to their manager, you're talking to them. So there's a lot of wiggle room from my experience in this situation.
100%. So we have to find out, again, as early as possible, who gets to have an opinion and who gets to make a decision, right? And then we have to get that decision maker involved at the key points in the project, right? We have to get them involved along the way. We can't just wait till the end, because that's when they come in and blow everything up. So let's talk about what that looks like, because oftentimes the decision makers don't want to be involved in everything, right? So I typically make the decision maker be involved in the initial review of any wireframes that we do, and at the approval of the wireframes. When we look at the initial visual design and the approval of the design, and then at demo site review and launch approval. Now, I've said most decision makers don't want to be involved. Like, a lot of the higher up you go in an organization, the busier you are, and the more they want to delegate it off to somebody below them. But they still want to make the decision. They're like, no, I'm too busy to be involved in this, but I'll say yes or no. You have to stand your ground, right, as the expert that they hired, and say, in order for me to do the best job possible for you, in order for us to deliver a great client experience and to avoid having to go back and redo work or unexpected challenges, if we can get the decision maker in these particular meetings, right, or involved in these particular places, we can mitigate a ridiculous amount of potential problems, right? And we walk them through it. And the thing is, I always say, look, my goal is to minimize the amount of time I need from you. I don't want to take up a bunch of your time. But if we can get on for 15, 20, 30 minutes at this stage and this stage, right? That's all we need from you. But we can't have you be a ghost and then just show up after everybody's been working toward one goal, and then you show up with a different goal. Right? So we get them involved. These are the key places where I want them involved. And sometimes we get on, sometimes we're on Zoom with your core contacts, the people that get all the input. I'll be on the call with them for like 30 or 45 minutes, and the decision maker comes in for the last 15. And they're like, okay, I'm here. What do you need from me? Let's do this. I give my feedback and we move on. Or they come in on the first 15 minutes, so then we can discuss everything that they said for the next 45, right? It just depends on how you want to do things. The next thing, this is the last thing to watch out for that we're going to talk about today: payment schedule interruptions. If promptness of payment suddenly changes, if they used to pay you on time and now all of a sudden they're not paying you on time,
I'm feeling this,
right? Yes. If your cadence of payment suddenly changes, that is a huge problem, because we don't work for free and we don't work without getting paid, right? If we're not getting paid, work is stopping until we get paid. If you're working milestone based.
Amen.
Right? Amen. Right? So how to prevent that? Automatic payments, or befriend the person that writes the checks. Right? This is the easiest way to do it, right? If you can, and it works for you, automatic payments ensures every payment is on time, because it doesn't rely on somebody making a decision to look at the invoice, cut the check, do the bank transfer, and send it over. But let's face it, the bigger your projects get, the larger your invoices get, the less you want to pay fees on those automated things, right? Taking credit cards is great when your payments are smaller, not so great when they're paying you in chunks of thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, right? That's not a good place to be. You're losing too much to fees. So we move to other avenues. So in that case, we make best friends with the person that cuts the checks. Right? They get the Christmas card and the holiday card. They get put on your gift list, right? You woo them just like you would woo the client, because if they have to say, hey, things are a little tight this month, I got to prioritize who to pay. You always want yours to go to the top, right? And when you befriend the payer, right, then that happens. But here's the thing. If payment is already late, reach out to the client and address it immediately. You cannot let that sit, because the longer it sits, the bigger of a problem it becomes. And the thing is, we can't make assumptions, right? I got trapped in this when I was young and naive and inexperienced. I'd be like, hey, what's the matter? Did I do something wrong? You haven't paid me. And then I check in with the client and I'm all defensive and I'm like upset and angry and frustrated. And they're like, I've had the worst flu ever. I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, now I feel really bad.
Yeah.
Or like something terrible happened. And I'm like, I just assumed the worst and totally attacked you. And you're like, I got mugged. Serious, real situation with a client. Right. And literally they were like, I got mugged. I've been in the hospital. And I'm like, now I feel like the worst person on the planet. Let me crawl under a rug and cry.
Or they're just a great liar, but you know.
but we can't automatically make assumptions that there's a problem, right? Sometimes they just forgot to process it and went on vacation. Sometimes they got sick. Sometimes things are blowing up in their personal life, but we address it immediately, right? And we set that precedent that payment is a non-negotiable, right? Even if things are blowing up in your personal life, right? The landscaper in your backyard isn't going to come plant all your plants if you didn't pay them, right? They're not going to put in your deck if you didn't pay for it.
Yep.
You're not going to keep doing all your work if they're not going to pay you for it, right? Everything will come to a screeching halt until that happens. So if necessary, we have to revisit. These are the payment terms that you agreed to. This is the implications of not paying, right? This is what's going to happen if you don't pay. And I usually in that conversation, I get a commitment of when the client's going to pay that. When can I expect to see that? Are you going to do it today? Are you going to cut that check and put it in the mail, right? Are you going to, when are we going to get that? And then I'm going to watch for it and follow up. Talking about money and having the tough money conversations and making sure that you get paid are a core part of doing business. And it's something you've got to get really, really comfortable around, right? Because money makes the world go round, right? We have to pay our people. We have to pay our bills. We have to pay our expenses just like anybody else does. So
can I also jump in again with the builders?
The
builders were totally non-negotiable with me as well. So there's me becoming the client that I despise because they're not really managing my expectations as well. What they were really good is at making sure I paid, and they did keep reminding me of that one payment schedule. They didn't remind me of the project schedule too much, but they certainly reminded me of the payment schedule, and I had to get a little antsy just to get them to set my expectations a little bit more. But what I really liked was what you said earlier about constantly revisiting the terms throughout when there's no issues, so that when there is an issue, it's not a big argument. And that was missing in our kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, the builders were amazing. I would actually recommend them. They were incredible if they're listening to this, which is very unlikely, and I'd do it again with them. But there were a few things that were missing that just made it stressful as a client. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no sweat. So one of the things I want to point out, you might have noticed a few common threads through these things that we've talked about, right? Nearly all of the solutions, right? Nearly all of the ways to prevent this from happening or for overcoming it, right? All centers around clear, consistent, concise communication, right? There can never be too much communication. Mainly because when you feel like you're over communicating, you're doing too much, it's usually just enough for the client because you feel every single thing you're doing. You're like, every email, every phone call, every check-in, you're like, God, this is so much. But the client's so busy with their own stuff that it doesn't feel like very much to them because they might not have seen everything, or they might not have read everything, or they might not have checked all their email yet. Right? So it's usually just enough for them to say, hey, remember this, remember this, remember this. And in each situation, potential challenges are addressed immediately. And usually either in person, by phone, or by video chat. We're not relying on email. Too much gets lost in translation when you're writing it down in email. Or, God forbid, text. Please do not do text with your clients. But we move it out of email, get it out of the PM system, and get on the phone, get on Zoom, have that conversation where you can look at the client in the eyes and you can talk to them about what's going on. Because it's a lot harder for them to be a keyboard warrior and come at you when they're looking at you face to face, right? And you can also see their facial expressions and their body language and gauge how receptive they are to what you're saying. And you don't get that by email or in your PM system. And also, none of these situations introduced blame, right? Blame is never part of the conversation. Instead, we focus on facts, objectives, and next steps. It's all about saving your sanity and protecting the project. So we have to look at what are the elements of a successful project that you need to have in place. 1, it's clear expectations and boundaries. 2, a step-by-step documented process. If you're flying by the seat of your pants and everything's up here, you can't often revisit and remind clients of your projects very effectively, or of your process very effectively, right? You can't give them a process that they can follow. A whole lot of clear communication and request and approval management. I told you we were going to come back and talk about changes a little bit more, right? We have to create a solid foundation for success for our clients, because if we want to stop problems from happening, it starts with how we work. It starts with our process, our systems, our approach to project management and client management. So there are 4 things that I think every single project needs. And the first, one source of truth. A place like your project management system where everything for that project lives in one place, right? Communication, files, deadlines, calendar items, milestones, to-dos, all of it lives in one place. So there's one source of truths that the client can refer to and that you can refer to. A clear change management process, right? Change orders are a service provider's bestest friend, and one I started using far too late in my client services journey, right? You have to use change orders and get used to making them a part of your everyday conversation with clients. Scope changes, change order. Scope changes and there's no implication to the budget or the timeline, still use a change order. Client requests changes the scope of work, sees the budget and timeline implications and changes their mind, still use a change order. Because guess what? Later on, clients are like, hey, I asked you for this. And you're like, yeah, we decided not to do it because you didn't want to pay for it. I don't remember that, right? And when you get it in writing, those conversations go away. We also need a clear approval process, right? Document all approvals with official approval forms. Wireframes and structures approved, get it in writing. Design is approved, get it in writing. The site's approved to go launch, get it in writing. My approval forms have the top section of it explains, hey, it's time for approval, and here's what approval means, right? So if we look at the design approval form, it's, hey, we're ready for design approval. This is what it means. In its basic form, it's going from our designers to our developers. A little bit more seriously, you can't make any more changes once you sign this without paying me more money, right? We outline exactly what approval means, so there's no lack of clarity there. And then we have the client approve it. They either approve it or they decline it. So either way, I have it in writing, right? Same thing with the change orders. They approve it or they decline it. So either way, we both have that documented on what that decision was. We talked about it and they chose not to do it, or we talked about it and they approved it. Then ongoing client education. This is something that not enough people do, and it's the hallmark and staple of everything that I have built in my business, right? It is critical that we deliver education and training and support to our clients at every stage of the process, from the minute they sign that contract to after the project has been delivered and we're following up, right? And we're providing outbound client care. It helps clients feel confident and comfortable and empowered to participate fully in the process. Challenges build relationships. I don't want you to think that if you encounter a challenge with your project, that it's the end of the world, right? Because it's not. We can overcome these things. And challenges will build stronger client relationships. How you handle these challenges, right? How you deal with the client, how you handle the challenge, how you find a solution during a project will impact the future of that relationship and what the client thinks about you and your business. If you handle it well, you work together to overcome the obstacle, and they end up with a positive result, it actually can strengthen the relationship and make it even better than it was before. the client in that case becomes really confident in the fact that you're putting them first. You want to help them succeed. You care about them. If something like this ever happens again, you'll handle it professionally and you'll help them get to a result quickly, right? And they're more likely to say, yes, I'll invest with you. I'll sign that monthly retainer, right? I'll sign up for ongoing monthly care and support because I trust that if anything happens, we can work it out. I already know it's happened once. I know what to expect. I'm comfortable moving forward. So it's okay if something does go wrong. Make sure you handle it well so that the client says, hey, yeah, we had a hiccup in this project. We encountered a problem with this project. We had a little bit of a struggle, but man, they really came through. Right? Man, they really did right by us, right? And fixed it, right? Or got it taken care of. Clients who have unexpected challenges pop up in the middle of their projects have ended up being my longest running, best, highest paying clients ever. I spent 22 years in the frontline trenches. I've made every mistake in the book. I've learned all the hard ways. I told you this at the very beginning, but thankfully I don't really have these problems anymore. I documented every single thing in my business, every single thing that happened on every single project for more than 6 months straight. I have got books of this. And when I documented it, I was able to go back and identify everything that was repetitive, right? Everything I was doing multiple times, everything that was a trigger for a challenge or a problem. And I created a documented system and process for how that was going to be handled, what communication the client needed. At every stage, what do they need to know? What do they need to feel? What do they need to learn, right? And how am I going to deliver that? These systems run all my projects in my business now. They've completely freed up my time. And now I've got happy clients that provide me great testimonials, refer me loads of business, and I have lots of time to pursue other passions, right? And share my lessons learned with other people. So I want to end with one last thing. If the worst does happen, right? If the proverbial shit hits the fan, I want you to remember something. Remove emotion and focus on the goal. So go get angry, go get frustrated, go work out all your venting with a friend, right? With the spouse, with the friend, with the peer, whatever. Then talk to the client and just say, hey, we don't need to dwell on how we got to this point. This immediately prevents somebody from blame. It's like, hey, we don't need to dwell on how we got here. The fact is that we're here. So let's focus on delivering the project and achieving your goals. Here's where we're at right now, and here's the proposed solution. It takes emotion out of it. It sticks to facts. It stops the client from that blame game, like pointing fingers, right? And it gets them to say, okay, yeah, let's focus, right? We don't need to go down that negative rabbit hole. Let's look at how do we move forward, right? These 4 things can completely change how a client is feeling if something bad does happen, right? So keep these things top of mind. Hopefully you never have to use them, right? The goal is not ever be in that situation, but it's inevitable at some point, something is going to happen because clients, again, are the wild card and we can't control everything. So that is it for now. You got my 9 situations you got to watch out for and my best tips and tricks to avoid them.
That was awesome.
Pretty damn epic, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming on for us. And I do have
Hopefully
some
questions. That was a good wrap
up. Definitely. And actually, the last slide was one of the questions that I was going to ask you is how do we leave the emotion out of this game? Because from personal experience, it's easy to get caught up in frustration. And the emails I've sent out to customers, I wish I could take them back sometimes because it's really, it's really hard.
I will tell you, I have lost it on a client, like once in 22 years.
That's
once.
Keep going.
I was literally yelling, and it was so bad. Brian, who was my business partner, walked in my office at the time and was like, and I'm just like, I was on a roll, but that client ended up remaining my client for years, right? They knew they were in the wrong, and it was a culmination of a lot of things. But one, I'm like, well, that's something I never, ever, 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 ever should do again, right? But we're human, right? We're human. We're going to make mistakes. right? And then the thing is, as long as we learn from them and we do better next time, then we can give ourselves some grace there.
Yeah, that is one thing that I love about everything that you teach. I mean, I've been following your work for quite a while now, and the one thing that always stands out to me is you make it very easy to be kind to yourself. As entrepreneurs, I feel that we are putting so much pressure on us, and we expect to get everything right the first time we try it. And despite having no experience whatsoever in what we are doing, like new tools, new customers, new projects, we always expect to over-deliver on first try. And at least that's how I roll. I don't want to make mistakes, and I don't want to be blamed by customers and stuff like that. So it's hard sometimes to just take a step back and to acknowledge the fact that we are human.
Yeah.
It is. I joke that I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm like super type A, right? Well, my husband's like, between 9 to 5, you're like super crazy type A, and then 5 rolls around and you're like a total complete mess and you fall apart. And I'm like, it takes everything I've got to be from 9 to 5.
I'm glad I'm not the only one then. I thought that was just
It
me.
takes everything I've got. After that, it's like, it doesn't matter.
I'm super organized in business, but you do not see the mess over here off camera. And I have no idea where anything is in my life other than in my business.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because it's true, right?
Yeah.
That's why, I got to a point where, my business was so stressful and I was trying to be perfect all the time and everything had to be perfect and everything had to be great. And I got to a point in my business where, there's that whole idea of you start a business because you want freedom, but you just bought yourself a crappier job.
Yeah.
I work 16 hours so that I don't have to work 8. Yeah.
Oh my God. I totally found myself there. And I got to a point in my business where I looked at my husband, and he was leaving his career and he was coming in to join me. And I was like, I hate the business that I built. Like, can you hire somebody else to replace me? And can I quit? Like, I don't even like the business that I built. Like, we need to change things and we need to go in. And at the time I was launching my personal family travel fun blog. And I was thinking about it. And the tagline that I use there is, inspired imperfection, but the idea is like living inspired, embracing imperfection. And now I'm getting ready to launch a project called Seeking Satisfaction. But that idea of living inspired, of waking up every day, loving what you're doing and feeling inspired to help people, and embracing imperfection and saying, I'm going to take action every day. It might not be perfect, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
Right. And then seeking satisfaction in what you're doing, that at the end of the day, when you lay down at night, that you're like, that was a good day. Right. I'm happy with how things shook out today.
That's good.
And I think if we can be there, like, everybody would be a little bit happier.
100%.
Karen, Jen?
You have a product that helps people get there, Jennifer, the Profitable Project Plan. I would love to give you like 5 minutes before we run out of time here to tell us a little bit about that.
Profitable Project Plan is my whole business in a box, basically. I had implemented all of these systems and leveraged automation to deliver these systems, to educate and care for my clients along the way, from onboarding all the way through outbound client care. And I had built out these systems, and I was going to WordCamps, and I'm talking to people, and I'm like, well, this is how I do it. And I ended up talking to Chris Lemma at one point. He's like, wait a second, what?
Did he have a cigar at the time? I just picture him with a cigar.
And what's funny is he was like kind of skeptical and was like, I don't really think that this is a thing. And so he hired us and went through the process to see for himself firsthand, like, do you really walk your talk? And then he was like, you got to come to WordCamp and talk about this. And so I did. I came to WordCamp and I gave a talk and I explained, like, here's what we're doing. And then I'm like, got flooded. Can I buy this? Can I buy this? Can I buy this? And I'm like, no. This was like hundreds of hours of work. This is my secret sauce. Like, this is what makes me awesome. No. But I kept getting asked about it, and I kept saying no for years, right? Because I implemented all this in my business in 2000, end of 2010, early 2011. And then, like, business shifted and grew, and I kept moving up market, and my projects kept getting bigger and shifting, and people kept asking, and I kept saying no. And finally in 2016, I was on vacation. We were in San Diego. We were staying at Chris Lemma's house, and he said, I want you to package up everything you're doing in your business, and I want you to sell it. I'm like, you're crazy. And he's like, nope, I have a 2-hour meeting right now and I want the sales copy done for it by the time I get back. And if it's not done, we're going to have a problem. And I'm like, crap.
That's like Parkinsons Law, yeah.
So I wrote it in 2 hours, and he put together the worst, terrible, most awful, horrible sales page ever on the planet. And if you're a designer, you know how painful that is. So I had to fix it really fast. And we put the first one for sale. And it sold like crazy, and I got people in and they loved it. And we've been iterating and improving ever since. You know, every year we add something. But it basically, I took everything that I created in my business, my systems, my processes, the emails, the client education guides, the resources, from running a website project to managing money and sales calls to lead generation, building out recurring revenue, and then adding branding on for people who don't have their logo yet. And so Profitable Project Plan became that program, that course, right? We teach the why, right? Why do we create all these things? Why do we do this? Why is it important? What is the system? What is the process, right? What do you need to be doing in your business? But my pet peeve is going to stuff and having somebody tell me everything I should be doing and then leaving me hanging. Like, go figure it out. I'm like I have time to figure it out. So we just package up everything I've created, and then they get that as well. So they learn the how, all the things of why, the what, the how, and then they get the tools to customize, right? They get the exact emails I use, the exact things that I do, and then I update it every year. So as my business changes and improves and I tweak and refine things, right? Everything in Profitable Project Plan gets replaced, right? So, you know, we're not recycling old things that are no longer relevant, but it's kind of my opportunity to share, right? I kind of got to this point where I'm like, God, I'm seeing people who are so much more talented than I am, make so much less money and struggle so much more in their business because they haven't implemented the systems and processes that I have. So if I could share what I created with them and help them have an easier, less stressful business that makes more money so they could go on more vacations like I do, that's a win, right? So Profitable Project Plan is 10 months. It runs January through October with live. Everything is live weekly trainings, live hot seats, live work sessions. And yeah, it's mentoring, training, and all the stuff to get done. So it's a lot of homework. But it's lifetime access, so people can keep coming back and coming back and coming back.
Folks, you can find out more on jenniferbourn.com. I'm coming out of someone's speakers. There's an echo. Who's that? Testing 1, 2, 3. There we go. Sorry, Jennifer, I've temporarily muted you whilst we talk. So, folks, you can find out more on jenniferbourn.com/profitable project plan, or just click on the big link at the very top of that webpage, because that looks absolutely phenomenal. This has been an amazing experience listening to everything that you've had to share. I have put a little notice up, folks, multiple times. Let us know in the comments which of those 9 resonated the most with you. You're not allowed to say all 9 because that's what I wanted to say. So please let us know in the comments. I do also want to share just a couple of really big takeaways that massively kind of kicked me and made me think. And there's 2 here. Number 1 is, where is it? I have my list. Here we go. My takeaway is, first of all, stop the derailment before it happens. So often I can see the signs as a business owner, but I ignore them. It's kind of that little self-sabotage thing because I'm a little bit too scared of talking about these problems that I can see, that some of those 9, those red herrings, those things that I should be therefore having a conversation about, I get too scared of it. And instead of doing what you said earlier, Jennifer, which was to constantly revisit that contract or how things work on a weekly religious basis, maybe, I don't know, but just regularly talking about how things work. So the moment you can see some of these warning signs, you can have that conversation. And if you do need to talk about the dreaded contract, it ain't going to get horrible, as we joked earlier, saying, as per contract, which was awful. And the other thing as well, which was really big, was talking about the key decision maker. That's something where I've so often decided that it's okay to talk to the key influencers, and that's a big no-no. You know, I let myself get bullied. The decision maker is far too busy to be involved, etc., etc. And I'll end up saying, oh, okay, then, well, as long as you guys assure me that you know what they want, then let's go for it. And that still is not going to work. They will want to please their decision maker, i.e. their boss. They will throw me under the bus first than themselves. And it is so important. And one thing I've never done is just got them involved at those key points. I have actually lost projects because I've insisted the key decision maker be involved in the whole thing, because I'm a real stickler for that nowadays. However, I admit I may have been wrong, Jennifer. And yes, we could actually highlight, okay, that's fine. We do, however, have these various points through the project that are non-negotiable that we do need the key decision maker involved in. So that was two things that really jumped out at me where I thought, yeah, I don't have it all sussed. So, folks, if you feel you do not have it all sussed, or you want to have some of those done for your processes, jenniferbourn.com, you don't really have to write all of this. Just click on the profitable project plan at the top of the screen and go and check that out. Lifetime access. That sounds completely phenomenal. So before we go, Jennifer, how else can people connect with you? And then we shall wave goodbye. I will unmute you. Sorry.
That's a good question. The easiest is I am at Jennifer Bourn on Twitter. I'm Jennifer Bourn on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. The only place I'm not, I'm just Jen Bourn on Instagram.
Aww.
I don't really do business there, though. But pretty much anywhere, if you Google my name, search my name, find my name, I'll pop up.
Unfortunately, my name is too long. It's 15 characters long. If I do the full Lee Matthew Jackson, so I just can't get the same anywhere. I'm jealous of anyone who can fit their name into their handle. That's very cool. So, folks, connect with Jennifer. Jan, how can people connect with you?
At I am Jan Koch on Twitter.
Show off. And with me, just come to come to agencytrailblazer.com. You can find all the ways of accessing in there as well. Jennifer, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. There are actually way more takeaways I would love to have said, in the wrap up. But folks, do check the comments. I've pasted a few of the ones that really resonated with me in the comments of this Facebook Live. Sorry. Also, what we are doing is we've noted a few key areas that Jennifer shared with us that are phenomenal, which we're going to cut out and we're going to repurpose them. We're going to put those out on social media. Those key areas that we think are really, really important for us to consider. So we'll be sharing that and promoting this for you, Jennifer, in the ongoing, because this has been phenomenal. So thank you so much. I've got one last question. I keep seeing when you were talking a little red flashing light behind you. Have you got like some uber amazing sound system set up?
Let's see.
I've been transfixed.
It's just a rack mount for all the audio stuff, but there's a preprocessor. And
so cool.
Here's the thing. Like I keep wanting to delete it, but I leave it up to show just how far I've come and that taking imperfect action is better than waiting.
Yeah.
The first videos I ever did on my site are terrible.
Oh, great.
They're terrible. They're so bad. The lighting is bad. The sound is bad. Like everything about them is bad. But I put off doing video for so long because I was really nervous and scared. And I'm like, what if I look stupid? So I did the first few and then I realized just how bad they were. And I reached out to Sean Hesketh of WP 101 and I'm like, you know lots about video. What should I buy? And so Sean sent me a list, right, of like, buy these panels, right? Like, get yourself a good mic, right? So I got this whole list, and it's the preprocessor, like the audio, like all the things, and then a rack. Brian's like, I'm not putting all this stuff on your desk and having wires everywhere. Like, we need things clean. Yes. So he stuck it in this rack, and those are my blinky lights are for my audio.
So I promise I absolutely did listen to everything you said, but I also watched that blinky light a lot because I was quite transfixed. I was trying to work out if it was actually flashing as you spoke, and I'm sure I was right. So folks, jenniferbourn.com, go and check that out, or you can connect with me and Jan on the socials and also via the Cloudways group. Thank you so much, everyone. All that's left for us to do is to wave goodbye until I decide when to press end broadcast.